I'm Cooney, your art Sherpa. I'm in the middle of a Texas snow flurry here. Each one is unique and special. It's time to paint this fabulous, fun snowman who's letting it go and catching snowflakes. I'd like to show you how to make this step by step. Everything you need so you can complete this painting in your own home. Get your brushes, get your paints, get your materials, come back and meet me at this easel real soon. Remember, information as always is in the description below or at theartsherpa.com. And if you're feeling optimistic, you could give us a subscribe, like, and don't forget to comment and tell me what I'm painting next. All right, guys, let's go. I really like acrylic paint. I like that the materials are easy. I have a 16 by 20 pre-gessoed canvas. I got this in an economy pack of 5 at my local craft store. Here I have my materials. I have my Naphthol crimson, but the truth is any crimson color would really work here well. What you want is that Christmas red. So, just look at what you have. Don't feel like you're locked into only Naphthol crimson. Maybe it's alizarin crimson. Maybe it's another crimson. Sometimes it's just crimson. Those are all okay. This is yellow oxide. Sometimes it's referred to as yellow ochre in acrylic paint. And what you're looking for is a yellow gold. I have burnt sienna here. Burnt sienna is a reddish brown. I have titanium white, Mars black, and this particular one is cad yellow medium hue. But listen, a Hansa yellow would be just fine. For something like this, the colors can be similar to this, but they don't have to be exact because this is almost pop art. The drawing of this piece is really not like drawing at all, but remember, you can go to theartsherpa.com to find traceables and more information about how you can do any project without having to draw. Tracing is not cheating. Tracing is just a skill. And this is just supposed to be a fun, relaxing project to help us relax and let go of all that holiday pressure and stress. Speaking of, I have my nice warm cocoa in my little mug, just keeping me toasty and keeping me going. And that's okay. Make sure wherever you're creating that you're comfortable. Texas snowflakes, my favorite. Let's get started. So now that we know that tracing is in no way cheating, I'm still going to show you how to draw this in because I think that you can draw this in. Because really all you've got to do is make some general round shapes. Your snowman does not have to look exactly like my snowman. In fact, it shouldn't because we're not really making photocopies of each other's artworks. Remember not to take your creative time too seriously. The whole point of this is to relax. Come over to your 16 by 20 canvas or whatever media that you're painting on. Multimedia paper would be just fine for an art journal. And about a couple of inches from the bottom, make a couple little marks. This is your starting space to build your mountain. Now I'm sketching this in with a watercolor pencil that's very inexpensive, and I'm doing this because this will disappear into my paint. If I were to use a graphite pencil, it might create some gray in my paint that I didn't want. Notice that my line is a little bit wobbly. This is to remind me that my snowman is a handmade, imperfect being that needs a little character. And it's important to have character in your art. I'm going to make another little round shape over this one for the head. I want to come at least halfway, maybe a little bit past halfway between these two spaces. I'm going to start right here at the upper shoulder. I'm going to round it out. I want him to be round. Say that with me, round. But notice I'm not worried about being very smooth. I, in fact, don't want him to be smooth. The other fun thing I'm going to do is his little carrot nose. Now, overall, I've got this nice little line here. I want the nose to head off this way. But carrots are not orderly beasts. They do their own thing. They're root vegetables. So be sure and have a carrot with character. So I'm going to wobble over here to the left a little bit and then wander back to the right, tapering off because carrots are wider at the part where they come out of the ground and narrow where the root is. So I'm trying to show that on his nose. Look at how much character my carrot has. You're going to find you really enjoy it. when your paintings have character. I'm going to paint this in with acrylic brushes. I have this brush here. It has a synthetic filament that's quite firm. So in brushes, there's bristles, there's hair, and there's filaments. Bristles and hair can hold too much water. And if you find that you're having just too much water in your mixture, the thing that you can do without having to go buy a new brush is to make sure that you're wiping that extra water off on a towel. But this is designed to not hold too much because it's made for heavy body acrylic paint. I'm going to take this over, dip it in my cup, and drag off the extra water. Right? And as you can see, it really lets that extra water go. And I'm going to pull from the outside of my red paint here. And I'm noticing when I get to my canvas, I'm going to confirm this, that this is a little bit of a drier stroke than I might like. So what I can do to adjust that is come, dip in, take off just one side of the extra water, and mix in so it's a little more fluid. See how I'm doing? Not a lot, just a small dip. I don't want this to be like a puddle. I'm doing this so that the paint leaves my brush and flows onto the canvas. This brush is a number 12 bright. But really, what you're looking for is any bright, any size. You just want a nice square shape with a sharp edge so that you can either paint on the edges of the bristles or do a nice wide stroke like this. If your brush says flat instead of bright, don't panic. All that means is that the bristles are a little bit longer than you might find on a bright. Not a big deal, just different lengths of hair, filaments, or bristles. Try not to panic about anything that's happening in your art. See how I just dipped in them, but I don't want too much. Now, if you had a soft brush, that would be too much water. I'm going to come here and I'm painting in everything around my snowman. Everything around him in this red. Just red. No color mixing here even. This is a really good painting for new painters. See how I'm coming on the edge using my brush to make this sharp edge? That's something I can do with a bright really easily. You could also do this with an angle brush, a 1/2 inch angle. Sometimes it feels when we see lessons online or on TV that things have to be a very exacting way, when really we're just trying to help you along on your journey. So see how this is going? I hope you're doing good. I hope you're liking your red color. Come around your character snowman. How much character does he have? Don't make him smooth. Make sure he's got lots of character. The other thing that we're trying to do is cover the canvas. And you might be able to see in the up-close camera. The more fluid my paint is, the more I'm likely to get this resist between the pre-gessoed canvas and my paint. So I might have to press a little harder with my brush to work those little spots out. Everything in painting is a weird little balance, a strange little dance. I'm going to do what I did here, right here. Look at me, I can paint that in real fast. Coming on the edge and traveling around his head here. Getting more paint when I need it. Always get more paint. If you find that you're making a brush stroke and the canvas isn't changing color, you need more paint. And you think that's silly, but actually sometimes you get so drilled into painting a painting that you might not notice that you need more paint. Happens to everybody. Don't feel weird or worry about it. See how I'm going back and forth? I'm just pushing this paint into the canvas. There's lots of ways to put this paint on the canvas. Sometimes people will ask me if it's okay to use water with acrylic paint, that they heard about something called underbinding, which means that the paint doesn't stick to the canvas. But that's more about creating washes or watercolor effects with acrylic paint. Acrylic paint is made to be thinned with water. And usually your paint will have information about how much water you can add and not lose any performance in your product. The paint I'm using is up to 30%, which is quite a lot. And we're barely even putting in a couple percent to thin it. Wow, that was easy and wonderful. Look at that great background. Now, when I'm painting him in, I really want to make sure that my background is dry so that the gray color I'm about to put in doesn't make a weird pinky gray that I don't actually want for this piece. So let's hit this with a hairdryer. Some thoughts on drying your painting with a hairdryer, or you could just let it naturally dry. That's okay. You could just take a break and go do something else. Whatever you like at home. Remember, this is your time to relax and let go and have fun. But when you're drying it with a hairdryer, try not to put the hairdryer too close, move it around a lot, and maybe not put it on its highest heat setting because that can cause something called color shift, which is a slight darkening of the paint. All acrylic paint has a little color shift, but some tend to lean towards more than others, and the heat can exacerbate that condition. Are you ready to dry it? Because I don't really want to wait around. That's the whole reason I paint acrylics, is so I don't have to wait for the paint to dry. I think I need some Texas snow. I really love Texas snow. Each one is unique and different than the other. And it's really a snowfall you only get here in the South. I hope you're enjoying the snow that you're having right now. Mine is very warm, cozy, and delightful. All right, let's get to the next part of our painting, between snow flurries. I'm going to go ahead and take this number 10 bright. Right? See this bright here? I'm going to dip it in the cup, drag off the extra water, and I'm going to take a small amount, see the snowflake in my paint? A small amount of the black, and I'm going to mix a soft gray. If your gray is too dark, you can always wipe off your brush and start the mixture again because you don't want it to be too dark, because you need to be able to lighten it with the next layer of paint. One of the things that I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to get more white paint, but I'm not going to rinse my brush, is I'm going to be using my brush stroke to talk about dipping in the water, dragging off, getting a little more white paint, the shape of the roundness of my snowman, coming along my little edge here maybe a bit. See, I'm curving that brush stroke on the flat back and forth. Yes, you could do this with a flat or a number 8 or anything that would give you this nice stroke. Really, whatever you're comfortable with and you have control over will work. I'm pulling it out. You can see how my paint is just at the tip of my bristles, and what I never ever do is just mix these two together, just in big giant pops, because that would waste all my paint, and I wouldn't have very much control over the results I was getting. I wouldn't enjoy that at all. So as I am going up his head here, you'll notice that I just keep grabbing white paint, but not rinsing my brush. And that allows for this lighter and lighter effect that I'm going to take advantage of later when I add his little snowy texture, which is one of my favorite parts of this easy beginner painting. So see, I'm just curving that brush stroke, curving that brush stroke. Isn't that great? See, you're doing wonderful. Enjoy your cocoa or comforting beverage. Take a deep breath. Blow out the stress of the holidays. No need to have it here in your studio. I'm going to pull out a little of this black paint again and make a darker gray. If you need a little more water, just dip your brush just a touch in the water and pull it out. So again, you're going to find the more water you have on your paint, the more it's going to pull away from the canvas. So So one thing that will let you know that you have too much water is if your paint is not going on the canvas very easily. The other thing, and this is kind of tricky, I'm going to show you like I don't have enough paint. See how it's just not covering? That means I don't have enough paint. So a lot of what you're doing as a new artist is just figuring out when you need more paint and when you need more water. Just grabbing the white here. And just making sure I cover the whole canvas. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to dip, drag off the extra, and keep getting the paint. When I come to the part where the white meets the red or this gray meets the red, I'm going to make sure I go to the edge of my brush, and you can see how the bristles are dragging, creating a nice tidy line. Now right now you might be like, but my snowman feels like he's got a dirty gray going on. Well, whenever you're painting something white, it's nice to give it a little bit of texture, a little bit of dimensionality. And how we create that in art is by the value of our paint, how light or dark it is. And nothing makes a bright white seem more bright than having a toned paint underneath it, like we're doing here with the gray. Notice I'm dipping, dragging off. You can see the pigment going into the water. And just painting along confidently. However, you might notice that I'm very relaxed and artistic in my brush strokes, but maybe you're a very orderly person. That's also okay. Art is about being yourself, not about being somebody else, and these lessons aren't to make you be a painter like me. These lessons are to help you be a painter like you. And that's why I explain so much of what we're doing. I'm pulling the paint and covering all the canvas. See that? So it's a little lighter down here and darker up here. Now I'm going to paint in my carrot nose. And my first color for my carrot nose, I'm going to get a smaller brush. I'm going to get a number 4 bright. I really like brights when I paint acrylic paint. They give me a lot of control over my paint, and that's what I appreciate about them. I'm going to dip it in the water, drag off the extra, and pull out my yellow. And remember, while I'm using Cad Yellow Hue, you could use Hansa or another yellow paint. I'm just letting you know what I use to get my result. When I come to where the carrot meets the snowman, I'm going to make a brush stroke on the flat, curving down and going across. And then I'm going to come up the carrot. Look at this, coming up the carrot. Now I'm going to fill that all in on the wide part of my paint. A little curve makes it feel like it's set into his face a little bit. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to rinse this off. I'm going to sketch in my arms that are reaching up and catching snowflakes, my twiggly arms with paint, because I'm very confident about where those are going to go. But you might not be as confident about where they're going to go. And, oh, more snow flurries. You might be a little worried. So what you can do is take your watercolor pencil or a chalk pencil and sketch them in first. Actually, I've even used kids' chalk from my kids' chalk bucket. So all of those will work to just get them how you like them before you put them in with paint. But remember, and I'm going to show you how to fix a mistake. Even if you make a mistake in acrylic painting, and this is one of the things I love about this medium. I think all painting mediums are great. I don't think one is better than another. We just have different things we like. I really like about acrylic painting is that it dries really fast, and I can fix mistakes very easily. So that's just a plus I have for that. Number 4 bright, drag off the extra water. I've still got some yellow in there, and you can see that dragging off. All right, now it's clean. I'm going to take a little of my black paint over to my burnt sienna, and I'm going to mix them together until I get a deep chocolate color. Now you may need to drag or even come over to your towel and wipe off the extra paint. I'm going to load it up on the tip of my brush. You can see that bead right there. I'm going to come from the midpoint out the shoulder, and I'm going to wander. Remember that our snowman has character, so your branch should wander. Give it elbows and cricks and little interesting bumps. And then I'm going to do a thing here because I want this to feel like a hand that's catching snowflakes. I'm going to curve this line a little bit that way. Load up your brush again, bead on the edge, and then I'm going to make a little curve coming out like that. That almost feels like a thumb and maybe a finger. But what if I put a finger here I didn't like? I'll show you in a minute how I might fix that. The other thing I want about my branch is I want it to be thicker here where it joins our snowman and taper where it ends. So I'm going to make a parallel line that's a little bit wide, almost a ½ inch here, and then taper it into my twig so that it gets narrow. And I might even come this outside, following my first line. See how that feels very twiggly? I'm going to do that same half smile here, make it feel like it's planted into the snowman. I'm going to paint this all in with the chocolate brown. Doesn't have to be perfect, and every time you mix it, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. You may find if you're painting inexpensive student paints that your paint gives you some trouble covering over the red, and all you have to do is maybe 2 coats. Don't worry about it, it's just an extra coat. Just let it dry and do another coat. So I like that. Maybe I'll even give a little bump there, just something that feels super twiggly. Refine this here, because I want it to feel very much what it is, like a branch that has become magically animated, like all snowmen. Alright, so now I'm going to bring this branch up. It's also reaching up, looking for delicious, delightful snowflakes to catch on our fingertips and on the tips of our nose. Oh, snowflakes are special. Pulling a little more paint out. You can see how I mix. Oh, I feel little snowflakes tickling me. I love Southern Texas snowflakes. They're the perfect temperature. Now I'm going to pull a little round bit here. Again, that feels a little bit like a thumb, and then one little twiggly bit coming up here. It's almost as if I made a hand, but still feels like the end of a branch. Just like I did before, I'm going to widen my branch and maybe widen it a little bit over here. Remember, branches have a lot of character, so don't worry if yours does. And also remember, if anything is not making you happy in your painting, you can always just paint right over it. You're never ever stuck with anything you did. All you need is patience and time. So I have these 2 little hands, but I have that spot I didn't like. All I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse my brush out. When I'm rinsing out, I kind of press to the bottom and swish back and forth just to make sure that I'm pulling the pigment out. Tapping off. And I actually wiped off because I don't want extra water on here, because I want as much coverage as possible. And I'm just going to paint right over that. Do you see how that disappears? Now, it's not that there's mistakes in art. You can't really make a mistake in art. What you can do is paint something that you're not personally happy with. And whenever you're not personally happy with something in art, just change it. Don't get stressed. Don't say I ruined it. Don't say I can't do this. Just realize, oh, I just have to let it dry and fix it until I'm happy. Because all art, all this journey is about you finding a happy, calm, creative space within yourself in the crazy storm we're calling life and the holidays right now. I'm loving my snowflakes. They make me so happy. You know, if you live in a place that doesn't give you snow, make do. It's what artists do. I'm going to rinse all the red out of my brush. Those of you who are thinking about having a party for painting are already questioning if you should get a bubble machine. I'm sure. I'm going to take a little of this red over to my yellow. And if you remember from school, when you mix two primaries together, you get a secondary color, and yellow and red make orange. I'm going to come on the nose with my number 4 bright on the flat. I'm going to make a brush stroke that's like a stripe, like a barber pole, going up the nose. See? You can even do one here at the corner if you think it needs one. It's your nose. If you didn't like what you did, just draw it and fix it. I like all that. That looks pretty good. As soon as your paint isn't shiny, it's generally dry, and then you can do the next coat. And one of the things that I want to do is add a little of my burnt sienna and my yellow ochre mixed together. And I'm going to come up, my brush is very dry, and I'm making very light brush strokes to create some wood. See how I'm doing that? Just a little bit of twiggly texture. You could leave them just dark if you liked. If you don't like this effect, just paint it out. But I really do. And again, I'm just coming along here and adding these little highlights. I feel it gives it some character, and that's just me. You do what makes you happy. You could also do this without adding any brown to it. See, I'm just soft. This is like tickling your canvas very lightly with your brush. If you had a soft brush, this technique can be a little bit harder. All you gotta realize is that it's not you, it's just the brush. Don't take it personal. Adding a little bit of this up the twigs. I just like the contrast because I feel like it makes and enforces his twiggly little hands. It's just me, makes me happy. I'm going to rinse this out. And I'm going to get, I'm looking for the perfect brush. I think I'm going to get back into a number 10 bright. It's a good size for what I'm working. If you only have one number 10, you don't have to get a new brush every time you change. You could just wash your brush out really well. That works too. I'm going to put out a little more paint because I know I'm going to use quite a lot of it. All right, got that out there, and I'm looking to see what else I need. The next part is going to be painting in his snow effect and his bow. Now again, if you're not comfortable freehanding his bow in paint, well, you would just draw that in with your watercolor pencil. See what I'm doing here? I'm going to make my little square to start my bow, but you can't really see that if I do that way. So let me sketch this in with a number 4 bright. I'm going to do it with my black paint so you can really see it. So I'm going to make this nice little square that's the center of my bow. You sketch it in with what you have. I'm going to arc up and arc out, arcing up and arcing out. This one went almost a little bit past him, but these two kind of stayed inside his confines. Then in the center, I'm going to go like this to create my bow shape, arcing back in, meeting about the halfway point, I think, is really where it is. Do the same here, right? Then I want 2 jaunty little ties that hang down. They make me really happy, and so I put them in. So I'm going to curve down a line and curve down a line. coming from the side up here, I'm going to curve down another little line. I really like the stripes of this bow, so this was something I really wanted to put a lot of focus onto. Once I have those stripes, I do a similar thing I did here, but instead of bowing it out, I curve it in. Let's paint that all in so it has a chance to dry. And I'm going to just paint it in solid black. Enjoy my falling snowflakes. And get my holiday spirit on. If you were living somewhere that didn't have snow, you could join me in snowflakes, non-traditional snowflakes. Be creative in how you live your life in every way. I enjoy it. Makes my world more fun. I love the contrast of the red and black so much. I don't know if you like red and black. No idea. You could tell me about that. You know, what you enjoy over this part of the season. You can always go to theartsharpo.com and get more information about any project that we have going on. There's a lot of them there. We have hundreds of free painting lessons for all the seasons. So even if you live somewhere else where it wasn't even winter, probably we have a painting for you. So I'm just painting that in all black, enjoying that. I really love it. I think it's very important to do the things that help you keep your calm and your joy during a season of joy. Let go of that pressure. Let go of the painting pressure and the expectation. And just say, you know, this is the season of creativity. You might be curious about how the bubbles are affecting my painting, but actually they're not hurting it. But I'm not trying to paint a painting for a museum, as I don't really expect a museum to hang a Happy Little Snowman painting. I'm painting a painting for my joy and for my heart. When I have a beautiful coat of black paint on the bow, I'm going to allow that to dry. And I'm going to get my number 4 bright. And I'm going to put in my smile. Now, the smile is a place that can give a new artist a little bit of surprising grief that I'd like to help you avoid, if at all possible. And again, that handy dandy chalk is a good way to do that. Because remember, if you have chalk or watercolor pencil, once the paint is dry, a lot of times you can just wipe it off. I'm going to make a smile very lightly. You might not even be able to see it with my watercolor pencil. This will help me make my little stones that show that he's looking up, catching snowflakes, and smiling. My stones, as you might already suspect, are going to have a lot of character. I'm going to do them about dime size, like this. And I'm going to come over about every 1/4 inch or so and add another little stone. Don't worry that your snowman is still a little bit gray. Don't have anxiety about that yet. Okay, guys? We're going to address his snowiness in a minute. He has faith in me. Your painting has faith in you. And as long as you hold on and persevere and finish, and don't worry if your painting looks funny in the middle. Everybody's painting looks funny in the middle. All right, so once I have a smile that makes me happy, I'm going to take my number 10 bright and I'm going to start brightening up his snowy aspect. I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet. If your water is very, very dirty, you may need to change water because you want this to be quite bright. Pick a brush size that you're comfortable with. I'm really comfortable with this brush size. I'm going to even come around my little stones a little bit. I want a very rough brush stroke because I want this to feel bumpy. Bumpy is a great way for this to look, and this is where the gray is helping me out. In art, sometimes we call this painterly. You can paint your stones after you put in your snow, but I like to work around them. I think it gives a neat effect. Just feathering, and you can see that the shading is still there underneath this paint because you're painting very lightly. You're tickling the canvas. If you have a boo-boo, just let it dry and paint it out. All right, there we go. Let's add some white down here. Now I want a little shadow under my bow to help it define. So I'm going to make sure that I leave a little of my gray even as I'm painting my little highlights in my snow. Painting around here. Just leaving a little bit of that shadow. So you're seeing he's picking up some of the aspect of being a wintry wonderland little guy. I have another snowman that I did with a cardinal. It's real cute. Who's his cardinal friend? And we did that against an Icelandic blue background to make him seem very cold. But this is a trendy snowman. He's well dressed. He's very current. He thinks he'd like to be pinned and everything on Pinterest because that's just fun. All right. So we're still letting our bow dry, which we could go ahead and dry with the hair dryer. If you see anything you need to touch up, I'm going to just make sure that I've dry brushed here and that he looks snowy and fluffy and handmade as much as possible with a little shadow underneath the bow. The snowflakes. The snowflakes I like to do with a fluid paint. It's a soft body paint. So what I'm painting with here is called heavy body, and that means it really holds its brush stroke. It doesn't fall down or flatten even as it dries. But for the snowflakes, I want them to flow off. So I have this fluid paint that I like to use. It's a little bit plugged from the last time I used it. There we go. Wipe that off. But what people don't know is like a craft paint, a good craft paint can be like that. You can also thin your paint a little bit with water to improve its fluidity and make it a little bit more of a fluid paint. I'm going to take this detail brush. This is a 5/0 round. It has a very fine, these are still synthetic filaments, but they look like natural sable, but it's very fine. And I'm going to actually start using the back side of this. I've just dipped it in there, and I'm going to place dots all around my canvas. Dip, and just press straight down. There's a lot of different ways I like to teach snow. One is splatter, but this, you have quite a lot of control where all your snowflakes are going. How many snowflakes you have, and what kind of personality they've got. Isn't this easy? Just putting snowflakes here and there, having fun. Now I like some of my snowflakes to have even a little more character than these delightful little dots. So I do a decorative element. I'm going to show you how I do that. This is actually a variation on the stars that I like to teach for all my galaxy lessons. I really like teaching paint. I like helping people know that they're creative and that they can paint. I think it's always delightful to see somebody be surprised by how creative they actually are. I'm going to pick this dot right here, really because it just makes me happy to do so. And I'm going to make a line very fine straight up and another line very fine straight down. Make one coming out and make another little one coming out like that. Then I'm going to make a little V, checking my hand for paint. I tend to rest my hand on the canvas. You can buy something called a bridge so that you can rest your hand but not put it on the canvas. Oil painters use it a lot, but usually my paint dries quickly enough that I don't have to worry about it. Now that I have that in, I can make the other part of my snowflake. I curve two little lines out the opposite way. I like that one. I'm going to make some more of those here and there, just for fun. There's one right here by his hand, and I really, really want to make that a snowflake, but it's giving me trouble because it's in an inconvenient space. So something that I can always do is move my canvas. So I'm going to do that. Always try to paint in a position or canvas placement that's comfortable for you. Any of these decorative elements, you can look up a bunch of different ways to do this. This is just one I designed that I like. But there's lots of references online that you can use. I'm going to put this back upwards. I think I need another kind of decorative snowflake somewhere, and then I'm going to have a smaller version of my decorative snowflake. So I think I will take this one here because he's a little bit lower. Try not to line everything up on my canvas if I don't have to. Just enjoying the uniqueness of each snowflake. One of the wonderful things about snowflakes is that they're kind of low pressure because they're each supposed to be their own thing. So even if they are really full of character, you don't have to worry about it so much because they're supposed to be unique. Now that I've got those in, I'm going to add some of the ones like this. Smaller little snowflakes. Not everywhere, just some places. Some different design elements to give your canvas some interest. but I still want to leave a bunch of dots. Make some bigger, some smaller, some just dots. See? Just having a little bit of fun placing your snowflakes. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to make sure that my bow is dry, and then I'm going to put in my stripes, and then we're going to be done, which is pretty amazing. This has gone really fast, but it's been a lot of fun. We're going to dry this and do the next part. My Texas snowflakes are falling, and I feel like it's time to stripe up that bow and take him to the next level. I hope you're really enjoying this free art video tutorial. I hope that you're really surprised at how far you got in this painting, and I really hope you'll share your progress with me, because I'm always interested in seeing what your experience is with this, how you're enjoying your art journey. I'm going to get my number 4 bright out again. I'm going to rinse it out really well. And I'm going to put just a small smidge amount of white on this. One of the things that I might want to do is to very lightly sketch back in the lines or legs of my bow. Right even to the square. Doesn't take a lot, and believe it or not, this is really going to disappear once we put the stripes in. So do it really lightly. Next thing that I'm going to do is put in my stripes. And my first stripe is going to be the diagonal up here. It's going to be about 1 inch wide. They don't all have to be perfectly 1 inch wide. That isn't really necessary. You're just trying to create this graphic, fun striped effect. I want 2 nice big stripes on my bow here. I might even curve these lines back a little bit the other way. This is pretty fun stuff. I'm going to curve the opposite direction on this side so it's symmetrical and interesting. All right. And then this helps me plan where I can put my stripes here. So my first stripe is going to go right across here. Then my next stripe will go here. And my next stripe will go right here, leaving a little black. This stripe, then this stripe, then this stripe, all while the snow is falling merrily on me. So once I have those all painted in, go ahead and load up your brush with your paint and paint in the stripes. I'm using the width of my brush to create nice, crisp lines. When I need to switch to the edge here to get a crisp line, I do that. So that's the 2 ways I might work this to define without tape these beautiful dimensions. Using the edge bristles here to create a firm line, and then using the tips of them. Paint those all in. Just enjoy that part. Also take a deep breath while you're painting. One of the things that all artists can end up doing is holding their breath. And the whole point of doing this is definitively relaxing. Again, if you're a person who likes very defined lines that are crisp, you can make those changes to this piece to make yourself happy, because at the end of the day, if you're not making yourself happy in your own painting where you're absolutely in charge, you're missing an opportunity to get to know yourself better. All right. I'm going to paint these downward stripes in now. And you can see how this bow starts to come together in its whimsical holiday fashion. Oh, I just accidentally put my brush in black paint. But luckily I caught it before I put it on the canvas, so I can just rinse that off. But of course you know that if you made an accident and put paint on the canvas you didn't mean to, that you would just allow it to dry and paint over it. Just painting in the stripes. Right there. Just painting them in, having fun, and enjoying yourself. This one looks like it really could use a little paint in. You can see how the stripes also define the bow. Makes me really happy, these bubbles falling. Just really, really happy. I hope that wherever you are in your holiday creative journey, I hope you get to make more gifts for your loved ones than you have to buy. And I hope you're just relaxing and having fun and being creative. Taking full advantage of your imagination. I am just touching up where I think that the paint looks a little thin. And I maybe want the white to be brighter than it is. Just having fun. Catching snowflakes. Taking a minute to relax. Putting down the worry and the care. The burden. Just enjoy yourself. Woo! All right. Let's take a look at where we're at. Isn't he gorgeous? I hope he's gorgeous for you. Or maybe she. It's your snowman. You're in charge. I'm going to take this opportunity to sign my painting. You don't have to sign your painting. It's something that you can do. I like to sign it, especially since I have so many people painting with me. That way I know which one is mine. I'm going to load up my brush on the tip. I like to sign in surprising ways, so I'm going to come over here. I always think about where I put my signature and how my signature impacts the piece. Remember, in art, it's about completing the painting and about finding a place that you're happy with the work that you did, not about pleasing people outside of yourself. So do these paintings for yourself, have a great time, make yourself comfortable. I really hope you're taking good care of yourselves, keeping it calm during what can be a stressful time of year, and remembering just to stop and catch some snowflakes from time to time. I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and I hope to see you at the easel really, really soon.